Hi, my name is Justin Davidson. I am the owner of Davidson and Son, and today I will be giving you my origin story. My origin story actually started a little before me. A lot of people ask me how I came up with the name Davidson and Son, and I didn't come up with the name at all. It was actually a business that was started between my father and his father many years ago when I was a kid. So they had started a business together, my dad being a very good carpenter and my grandfather not so much. So they had the business, and then the business closed down. And then when I opened the business back up, I only kept the name for namesake. At the time when I started Davidson and Son, I revived it. I didn't have a son. I just kept it because at that time my father was passed away, and I kept it for namesake. But now I'm blessed that I do have a son, and as of now, he wants to continue into the family business and continue at the name. My journey of being in the construction industry started at a very young age because of the fact that my father was in the industry. At the age of 12, I had a knack of making ramps. I would steal my dad's tools and the wood that he left around, and I would build ramps. And if you are from my neighborhood, you would associate my name with carpentry, because everybody does, because I've done it for as long as everybody can remember. I always like to work with my hands. I always like to take things apart, put them back together again. My first carpenter job was obviously working for my father. I did a lot of different things with him. I actually worked on a roofing crew when I was very young as the groundsman, just cleaning up. I started at the very bottom when I did work with him. And my dad wasn't like a lot of other people. He kind of expected more out of me. He wasn't easy on me. He was probably harder on me. He was old school. One of the odd jobs that I had that was probably odd for me to get was I moved down the shore. And when people move down the shore where I come from, they usually get they work on the boardwalk or like steak places or something like that, pizza places. I framed houses for a living. That was my first official job. So I had to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning every day and frame houses down the shore in Cape May. But that was one of the greatest experiences of my life, because that really cemented me into the industry, because I worked with the guys down there, and the framers down in Jersey are very professional. They really know what they're doing. But more importantly there was a guy that was very older on our crew, and this is something that really, it helped me decide how and what I want to do in construction. So at the end of every day, he was about, I would say, in his 50s. I would watch him take off his tool belt. And he would lead down, take off his belt, and then when he would come back up, he would always have to put his hand, and I could see the pain that he was in from the long day's work, because framing it's a hard job. And that, I said to myself that I knew that even though I loved the frame at that point, that's not something I wanted to do the rest of my life, because I could see the wear and tear it is on the body. And seeing that guy was instrumental in who I became later on in life, because I really got heavily involved in doing finish work. Because I learned that at that time that for finish work, you get paid a little more, and everything seems to be a lot lighter. So another heavy influence in my carpentry journey was my uncle. And I will get back to him in a little bit, but I just wanted to mention him because him and my father were the two biggest key factors in me becoming a carpenter and staying to be a carpenter. So when I was young, I had worked for my father, and then through that time, I had different jobs that kids have. In summers, I would work with my father as a laborer, and then my dad got a contract redoing hotels. I was about 17 at the time, and every weekend we would go away to different hotels, and we would work on hotels. And honestly, I was hooked from the beginning. It was a great experience. I liked going with my dad and the other men and the camaraderie and the messing around. It was a lot of fun as a young man. That led me into to do a lot of side jobs at that time. And it's funny because even though I was doing side jobs, I always had a professional business. I had insurance, I had those types of things. As I was still working like a waiter job, I was doing side jobs as a carpenter. And then I went into the union. I guess I was around 20 years old, the carpenters union, to be more specific. I was in the carpenters union a few years, and that's actually something that my dad did do briefly. He was in the carpenters union as well before he was self-employed. And I was in the carpenters union for about two and a half years, and I did like it. It was a lot of fun. But in that time, that's when my father had died, and I went through a weird phase in my life. And because my father had died, and a lot had changed fast for me. And so I left the union, and at that time I started working for my uncle, which I had mentioned earlier. Okay, so at this point I worked for my uncle. My father had died, and I did construction full time. I was about 21 years old. So when I first started working for my uncle, me and him worked together, and we worked for under different companies. We had many different kinds of jobs, but I would say the longest one that we had, and the one that was most beneficial to me, is when we used to work down the main line. For about a year and a half, we worked down the main line exclusively, doing additions, high-end kitchens, high-end bathrooms, and this really taught me a lot about customer service, the customer experience, what customers expect, and also about different kinds of finishes, because the people down there have a lot of money, and their finishes tend to be very high end. And that's all we worked with, was high end finishes. It teaches you patience, and it teaches you to take your time. So there was a lot of lessons during that part of my life, and it was we worked for somebody else. We didn't work exclusively for ourselves. So I would say one of the largest side jobs that I did before that I worked for myself, I was probably about 20 years old, and a guy had a deck, an upper deck and a lower deck. And what he wanted me to do was extend the lower deck, build a staircase, connect the two decks, and build a tiki bar. I was about 22, 23 when I did this job. And why I'm mentioning that job specifically is because, one, it was such a great experience for being my first big job. Two, I got to revisit that job 20 years later for that same customer, and I redid their whole first floor. And the first job was still standing. And three is that I remember that being my first job is actually when I start first dating my wife now, and I took her to a party that he had there, and because he wanted to introduce me. So it's something that I've always remembered. After this, my uncle went on his own and started his own business, and I followed him, and we built that business up, and he was doing very well. And then one day, he fired me out of anger. We got into a fight, and that's how I started my business. That's the true origin story of Davidson and Son. It wasn't really even a choice. It was a weird time in my life because I had just bought a house. I just bought a duplex. I just fixed it up. I just spent most of the money I had. So it wasn't actually the ideal time to start a business. So my uncle fired me. I had the blues. I went to a local bar. That's what you do when you're 24 years old, right? I walked in. This guy was complaining how he wanted to get a bathroom, a bedroom done, and he couldn't get a contractor over. He didn't show up. And I literally said, I will go with you right now. And I did. I sold him on that job. That job leaded into doing a whole first floor, redoing the basement. The guy redid all 3 floors of his house. And then from there, I was on my own ever since. Showing my age a little bit, when I first started off, I did advertise. I advertised in a church paper and in Northeast Times. And that was like a popular place to advertise. But very early on, I learned that customer satisfaction, if you focus on customer satisfaction, the biggest compliment a customer can give you is a referral. all right? Because the referral is what drives small businesses like mine, because the referral is just more than an opportunity to look at a job, because when someone gives you a referral, you're almost one step above anyone they don't know. And that is how I've gotten most of my business. Through the years, I stopped advertising a long time ago. And then through the years, I've been able to grow my business organically. I've actually, through time, it made my business smaller and bigger as I've won it. And I have never had to advertise doing it. And it's all because that I have always focused on customer satisfaction at a very young age. I always believe that if you put out a superior product than everybody else, that even if it's just only 10% better, that you're doing way better and you're above most of the crowd. And that's how I've based most of my business throughout the years. When I first started my business, I would say the biggest challenges that came across me was my age, because I was young. I would say that was one of the things, when I really look back, that's really changed over time. So when I was 25 years old, 26, and I came in to look at someone's bathroom, what I would say is that I would take them to someone else's bathroom, because I worked heavily in one area code, 19154. So I had a lot of jobs that I did in that area. So since I was so young, to gain people's confidence, I would literally take them to my job and I would let my customer sell the job for me. Okay, and I kind of had to do that because I was young and they didn't realize what I could do at such a young age. Okay, but now that I'm doing this for over 25 years, well, when I walk in and people talk to me, they know that I can do things, and I don't really have to prove myself, because I have over 20 years of proving myself that they can look up. One of the most rewarding things that I do, I want to tell you a story to actually tell you this, and that was actually something that happened recently. So about 15 years ago, I was scheduled to do a bathroom for a guy. It was just a bathroom. Well, this guy also was doing a kitchen, a powder room, and a basement done by another contractor. Okay, so after looking at my bathroom and the guy's basement, that guy got thrown off the job and I finished the rest of that job. That was about 15 years ago. So I guess it was this year, I got a phone call from his daughter. Okay, and I was able to go to her house and put on a big deck with an overhang and with steps, right? And she gave me a rave review on Google. That is the biggest joy I actually have in this business, is the fact that people like me that much. They trust me so much that they would refer me to their children. I mean, I don't know how much more trusting that you get than that. And that's something that's happened to me more than once. And it's just, when I walk in, it's just, that puts a smile on my face, for one, because usually when I remember that whoever I'm giving the price, they were like a teenager. And then two is the fact that a father entrusts me that much to let me work at his daughter's house. One piece of advice that I would give myself when I was first starting out, and this is very specific. I know it is, count the pennies and the dollars will follow. Okay, because at a young age, I didn't realize how important it was to all the small, minute details of the jobs, like hardware, things like that. All those small details add up. So if you attend to the small details, the larger ones fall in place. Over the years, things have changed definitely of where I work. So 4 years ago, if you would have called me and asked me to come about 20 minutes away, I would have told you no. I literally stayed in one zip code. Now that things have changed economically, the things that hardships have happened, I had to open up more, and then I realized that I was thinking way too small. So now my working area is much larger than it used to be, and we go much further. So I would say in the future, in order to be able to give everyone the best customer experience possible, the best thing to do would be to expand more, to make it a bigger company. One thing that I think people should know about me and my company, Davidson and Son, is that I care. Honestly and genuinely, I care about the job I give somebody. I care to the point where I want it to last 20, 30 years. I care to the point where I want you to refer me to your daughter. I want her to refer me to her daughter. I really care about a long-term product, and you will be able to tell that when you meet me, because I guide a lot of people to do nicer things for themselves in the projects, because of the fact that when this is a house that you're going to be living at for 20 to 30 years, you want things to last, you want them nice, and you should get them how you want them.